Hello, how are you? Thanks for tuning in. It's handlin29 here. Have a look at the links below if you want to know more about what I do. And for those of you who are regularly tuning in, thanks. Today I wanted to do some cyclamen leaves. I want to check out the colours that you might use to mix to make the tones in the leaves, and also ways of applying the paint. So the first thing I want to do is to show you my palette and the colours that I use. So here it is. This is ultramarine blue, lemon yellow, yellow ochre, it's slipping down, cerulean blue, burnt sienna, sap green, viridian green, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, and Van Dyke brown, and then titanium white. I don't know if I'll use all of these today, but I thought I'd put them all out and have them to hand if need be. So this now is going to sit on my table beside me. I'm right-handed, so it's on the right-hand side. And I'm going to hold this other tear-off palette and scoop up the colours with a palette knife and mix them on here, so that this isn't going to, the colours won't get mixed in with each other. Okay, so from now on you'll be seeing the back of my head and hopefully something worthwhile happening on here. Okay, let's hope for the best. Right. Okay, yes, so I'm going to start with the darks. And I'm going to make a dark colour. I think the first protocol there for the dark side of the leaves would be to go for Van Dyke brown, ultramarine blue, and maybe a little bit of the viridian green. So here we go. There's the Van Dyke brown. That's the ultramarine blue there. And then the viridian green. Let's see what those three look like together. I mean, I think it's probably worthwhile making it slightly darker rather than a light colour, so I wouldn't put any white or yellow into it at the moment. I think I'll just work with that. Okay, sometimes it's kind of hard to see the colour until it goes on the page, but if I spread it out on the white paper there, you can kind of see that it's working as a dark green. And I think the cyclamen leaves are a kind of a blue-green, so that's why I wanted to use the ultramarine blue in the mix as well. Okay, so now I'm just locating the position of the leaves, steadying myself to look. This is a painting I started last week, and the leaves have changed and the flowers have changed, but the leaves weren't painted that much, so I'm kind of happy that I'll leave the flowers where they are for now and just paint the position of the leaves here. Sometimes it's worth selecting from here what works for your painting rather than religiously following every single shift, you know, that the flowers make each time you come to the studio. Okay. So yeah, I'm happy enough with that dark. It's kind of leaping it, it's making the painting leap forward, and it's allowing me to make some general shapes for the leaves that are over here on this side. This one's slightly covering. I'm putting a bit more tarps into the mix so that I can more easily cover the grey that was on there before. I think that's also oil. No, it's probably acrylic actually. Yeah, this is acrylic and collage over the top. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just finding the general dark shapes. I mean, really this will probably lighten up a little bit, but with my eyes half closed, the leaves on this side are one of the darkest parts of the whole image. And so for me it seems appropriate for it to be quite a dark colour that I'm using here. Okay, I'm just studying the shape, the direction of the edge of the leaf, the shape of all the leaves together, the direction they're generally going in. And now there's another leaf that's equally dark along here, not quite at the centre of the jug, so I'm just going to lift off the left bit there. But it's a bit darker because it's underneath another leaf. Not quite as low down as that one. Okay, so this tarps this paint is watered down with the tarps, and it means that I can kind of work fairly swiftly and spread it out. You want to capture the darks and how they relate to one another fairly swiftly here. I say that because it's good to keep the whole surface of the painting alive and not get too involved in one area. There's a swiftness, but also a very keen observing of what's happening in the leaves. This third darkish leaf is pretty much at the centre of the jug, and it's not quite as high as these other two. In fact, the one in the middle there is probably the highest one, this one here, which could extend up a little bit on that side so that the gap is made smaller here. Okay. Yeah, and I think I'll disperse the darks across the way too, because although the light is falling on the leaves here, it actually means that the darks underneath the bright leaves will maybe be emphasized, or it would be helpful for them to be emphasized, so that it makes the light on the leaves later applied shine out or sing forth. I don't know, you know what I mean. It'll kind of make them read as being brighter. So I'm just finding, with my eyes half closed, any dark patches in the area of the leaves, and I'm kind of ignoring what's already there, because that was an approximation from last week when the flowers were actually in a totally different part of the studio. So I'm not kind of relying on anything that was there before in the underpainting, although it does give it a bit of energy. Now I've just put in a bit more of the Van Dyke brown into the colour, because if you look here, you can't really see this still, I've set up so well, but under here it's equally dark, but it's a dark that's got more brown than green in it, because it's mostly the stems. And I'm actually going to pick up some of the burnt sienna for that, because the Van Dyke brown, when I put it on there, still reads as a kind of bluey dark. So the burnt sienna will give me more the colour I'm aiming for there. And I've thickened up the paint a little bit so that it covers well over what's underneath. But I don't want it to be buttery thick. You know, that's probably more appropriate for when we later put on the lights. Okay. I think maybe this video I might stop after a little while, so that what this one will be about is more just explaining the darks, and then I'll do another little one and set myself up to explain the lighter parts of the leaves. This is actually a handy colour to paint in the stem, and you could later decide that the stem needed to be made thinner, and in that case you could just paint with the background colour up to meet the stem. But for now I'm wanting to get the parallel direction of those two stems, and just to kind of create some cohesion between the colours that I'm putting around the place over here, and relate them to this side. So the shadow down there, red is the stem colour here, and then there's some more brownish colours in the underside of the leaves over here. Okay. And of course some of the stems, then I'm just going to, before I stop this video, I'm going to just put in some of those stems, and mixing the burnt sienna, looking at the colour there now, burnt sienna maybe with some cadmium red, because it's got even quite a nice warmth to it. And I'm going to let it just be without white in it for now and see how that works. So there are some stems. Yeah, this stem is quite light that comes up here. Really, I'm actually just wanting to find the position of them. And then there's this lovely light one that's here. And although it does have light on one side, it's still going to be darker than the background, so it's okay. And it's very thinly painted, so it's easy to paint over it with a lighter colour eventually. I'm going to bring the stem right down. And then I can see that there's some more stems here. Okay. And maybe just a couple of the ones that are extending out here. Again, I'm not going to become kind of dogged about chasing every single thing. I'm just going to see if I can keep lively and keep it all moving. Okay, before I finish up there, I'm going to put some sap green. I think these two stems look a bit strange, you know, and I want to do this leaf that's out here give it a little bit more substance. And to me, as it goes towards the light side, it seems to me to become a bit more sap greenish. So that's sap green there, and I've mixed it with some titanium white. I'm just going to kind of establish the general shape of that leaf. It's as low as the point on this one here, and it doesn't extend that far out either, really, from the lip of the spout of the jug there. So I'm just going to paint it in so that there's a kind of a destination for those stems, although I'll be needing to adjust things in this leaf. For now, I think it's good enough to have something that says there's a leaf here. It's not just a blank space at the end of that stick. And this part where it covers the stem is a little darker. So I put some ultramarine blue on that. Okay. And I can't resist putting something in to describe that background where it meets that leaf down there. I think that's quite an important thing. And you know, as soon as you notice something that will help your painting, you might as well do it. Now that brush, see how that brush is just annoying because all the sap green is coming out of it, and I don't want it to be sap green coming up to meet the green leaf. So I'm going to change my brush to one that has red paint on it. It should be clean, but it's okay, because actually I don't mind it being a little bit red with the cerulean blue to make the grey of the background. In fact, I'll probably put a little bit more alizarin crimson, I think, into that to give me, you see it there, I'm looking for something that's a bit like that. And I think when it's gone a bit too purple, I'll need to stick some lemon yellow in it to dull the purple, to knock the heat out of the purple, is it? Or, do you know, to cancel it out. And I think straight away you can see that that's actually starting to look like that colour. I need to wet the brush a bit so that it's easier to mix. And doing that has limbered up the alizarin that was on the brush, but sure, it's fine. I think that's quite good. Okay, now, this is one of those actions that I wanted to show you, was a way of applying the paint with these square brushes that come to a lovely fine edge. And first I'm going to clean the edge off here where I want the background to meet the leaf, just in case there's leaf colour underneath, otherwise it'll make it go greenish again like that, and I don't want that happening. I might even go so far as to wet another clean brush and just lift off anything, any residue of paint that's on there. I also needed to bring the edge of the leaf down a bit, and maybe even a little bit more, to show that it's flat and kind of turning away from us. Just get the shape of it a bit more truly. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's doing something like that there. And then this side is going up. And you know, that might be a nice place as well to apply some of the background colour. I have some kitchen paper here to dry it off a bit better. I'm just going to dry off the area, because what I'm going to do now is to use the background colour in a more buttery consistency than I've been using the paint in the darks and the leaves. And because the background reads to me as being a bit lighter at the moment than the dark on the leaf, I want it to be thicker. It's helpful to paint the darks, the lights, a bit thicker. Now, what I want to show you is the scooping up action. So, I hope you can see here. So there's a fairly thick consistency of paint, and the brush has come to a fine edge. The edge of the brush is quite fine. So I'm going to scoop it up now. I'm going to push the brush through the thick paint so that I've got a ridge. I hope you can see that there's a kind of a ridge of paint on the edge of the brush. And I'm going to turn the brush now so that that ridge is going to sit here at the edge of the leaf. You see how I'm applying it there? There. I'll maybe do a bit of a close-up later on. So I'm putting the thick paint, and it's easily covering now the greens that are in the background because it's so thick. Scoop up some more and just obliterate the rest of it there. And I'm also going to do some here. So I want to scoop up more of that ridge again. And I'm going to come in from above this time and place, I want the thickest bit of the paint to be where the background meets the dark of the leaf. So I'm just going to push it up to the edge again and lift, push and lift, push and lift, push and lift. Let me see. And I think it kind of curves here, so I'm going to pull it in and stop there. Yeah. Okay, now you saw that the drip of dark paint started running down here, but I can just scoop it up because that's already dry and that's acrylic. So it's quite nice to mix the same colour in oil and work over the acrylic underpainting. There's something quite nice in that.